Adventures of the Decepticons Pet Ghost by Played Crowd 5610. Part 3 of Hunting the Nemesis. Chapter 4, Laserbeak. Summary. Danny meets Laserbeak for the first time. Danny was sitting on the control panel, looking up at the monitors, sadly enjoying Soundwave's company again as the mech worked. It was the main, if not only, time he could have some peace and quiet on the Decepticon warship. Still, it's not like he was on the Nemesis the whole time. He still had work to do. Danny went down to Earth often enough, checking out sightings that Tucker had sent him, helping capture the ghosts, and getting them somewhere safe before the hunters arrived. Soundwave had even started letting him use the ground bridge to get to and from the surface. It made getting to these things a whole lot faster than Danny having to fly across the whole country for a single ghost. But Danny, at this point, still spent the majority of his time on the Nemesis. Sure, some may think he was crazy for that, but being up here was so entertaining. And he got to hang out with all of his new kind of maybe friends. He glanced up, looking at the bot, as he silently worked at the control panel. Soundwave was his friend, that's for sure. As the only mech who doesn't complain about his presence, Danny smiled. Soundwave was looking over some older scouting footage from something flying and weaving in between trees. Danny raised an eyebrow. That didn't look like it was a footage from a plane. It was too small and maneuverable for that. What is the footage from? Then he pointed at the monitor. Soundwave glanced down at him before looking back towards the footage. Data and recording acquired by Laserbeak, the con responded. Then he tilted his head. He didn't remember a Laserbeak being mentioned before. Who is Laserbeak? He asked. The con stepped away from the console, and then he was confused for a moment, until the bot rolled his shoulders back and a large part of his chest detached. With practiced ease, the detachment folded and transformed into a large, pointy purple bird that, like its master, resembled a very threatening piece of origami. Whoa! Then he leaned forward, grinning at the comparatively small bot, who was now regarding him with equal curiosity. So that little guy has been in your chest this whole time? Laserbeak covered up and then sat on Soundwave's shoulder panel. Is that your pet bird, or? Danny tilted his head, and it seems as though Laserbeak mimicked Danny's action. Then he could see his two little mandibles twitching as he stared. Slowly. Then he became aware that he could sense the minicon's EM field, just as he might any larger bot. While it might be more controlled compared to other Decepticons, it could immediately pick up on Laserbeak's emotions. Curiosity, caution, and a protective instinct towards Soundwave. Laserbeak made some clicking sounds and jumped off of Soundwave to do a small lap around him, and come closer to Danny, curiosity bleeding into the forefront of his field. He made little clicking noises, and Danny smiled. He's cute! He glanced up to Soundwave, who had his visor tracking the minicon. Affirmative, Soundwave answered. Danny reached out a hand, trying his best to expel calm and reassuring emotions. Laserbeak must have sensed Danny's sincerity and calm through his EM field, and lowered his guard. Laserbeak's wing fluttered, and he floated around Danny, back and forth, running a scan over him and landing on the console next to him. Danny again held out his hand, and after a moment, Laserbeak fluttered a little closer with a little hop, allowing the human's hand to gently pat its head. But Laserbeak's field seemed to bloom with contentedness and appreciation, so he must have done something right. Danny could definitely feel the strong connection between Laserbeak and Soundwave, a deep feeling of protectiveness and care coming from both fields towards each other. You two are close, huh? It's like you can tell what the other's thinking just by being around each other. Affirmative. Soundwave leaned forward and mimicked the petting gesture that Danny had just done, which made Laserbeak so happy. Danny smiled and sat down again in front of Laserbeak. The bird con hopped forward and tried to nudge under Danny's arm, as if trying to fit in his lap. The con had no possible way of fitting, as he was still bigger than Danny. Instead, he just almost pushed Danny over. Danny laughed and held out his hand again to pat Laserbeak's wing. Soundwave nodded his helmet and turned back to his work. Attention to Laserbeak appreciated. "Any time. I think me and this little guy are going to be good friends."